So last month we finally had one track trip us up on our way to getting gold on every track of the day, getting our first silver medal. But I've returned with a vengeance for part 7 of this series and for the tracks of January of 2021. Currently in the background we're taking a look at my top rated track of last month, which was Dream World by Orego X, released on December 3rd. Will I be able to avoid yet another non-gold medal this time around, or am I in for another one? And what will our top rated track be this time? Well, let's find out. Starting us off here on January 1st is Desert Speed by Evo.DC. This is a full speed track. It was a pretty nice full speed track, although it did take quite a while for me to figure it out, because after a lot of these loops and a lot of wall rides, you really have to like slam hard to one side or another to make it work properly. As you see on the one we just passed, it really didn't take it that great. It had a big airtime in there. We're still going to manage to get gold here though. But yeah, really hard to learn this one is, like I said, a lot of the loops and a lot of the wall rides right afterwards. You have to go really hard one direction or the other. And just made it a little on the tougher side. But overall it wasn't too bad. Probably just missed out on a top 5 placement this month. Somewhere in the top 10 would probably be adequate for this one. But we'll let the rest of this one play out here. Enjoy. The track of the day for January 2nd was Vert Dawes by Casey Flakesy. Very nice tech track here. I enjoyed playing this one a lot, and another one that just missed out on my top 5 placement, somewhere in the top 10 for this one. Did have a couple tough spots for me. One will be coming up a little bit here, right after this jump. Nope, not this one. The next jump. Right here, I had a tough time with this one. A lot of times I would slam into that right wall. And then coming up here, this was also tough, getting this 180-degree turn while maintaining some amount of speed to get the risky finish was rather difficult. These corners here, semi-blind, but managed to get them, and there will be the gold. January 3rd's track was Nightfall by Zwirlicht. This track was just okay. I didn't really care for much at the beginning parts. They didn't feel all that smooth to me. The later half is a little bit better, but still just an alright track. I just didn't care for it too much. Mostly dirts with a couple of road sections in there, and we got a nice little dirt loop right here. But really not much else to the track. Just drive it cleanly and you should have this one golded pretty easily. And coming in with our 3rd place track this month on January 4th, we have Lagoon Cove V3 by RockyStarfield. I feel like this is one of the better Trackmania Lagoon style tracks I have played throughout the course of this series. Definitely by far and away the best take on it I have seen, like I said. Yeah, just very nice. I feel like the main improvement over this one was the width of the roller coaster, or magnetic tracks I should say, is that yeah, they're just much wider than they usually are. Like normally people try to make them a little skinnier and you're going through them with a lot of speed, so it just doesn't work out because the Trackmania 2020 car just doesn't handle the same way, so it usually results in like a poor driving track. But overall, yeah, this one, best take on it by far that I've seen. Had a little bonk there, but we're still going to get the gold alright, because this is the end right here. Just going to take one bounce on the water and barely make it up onto this platform. Lucky me. And the track for January 5th is Disposal by Will Icknaz. Hopefully I pronounced that right. We got a little bit of transitions at the start here, but thereafter it's going to be mostly a tech track with maybe a tiny bit of a full speed section in there. But I don't really know if you can really count that as a full speed section since you have to drift right afterwards. But hey, I'd just throw that out there. But yeah, just a normal tech track mostly. It's not really too difficult. This turn right here, is probably the most difficult, getting a ton of speed and then having to suddenly drift that. Probably the most challenging part of the track. But yeah, pretty normal tech track. And yeah, that'll be it for this one. The track for January 6th is Corrupted File by Luoki. This is going to be an honorable mention for this month. It's not a traditional type of track, as obviously you see we're driving over a bunch of invisible platforms, which I didn't really care for, but I thought it was unique enough and a good one-off that it deserved an honorable mention. It was rather tough though to try to find the good lines, just because you obviously can't see what you're supposed to be driving on. Got to get a lot of practice in to get it well, but here's the finish already. January 7th track is Sandy Rapture by the Kraz. This one is mostly full speed with a few drifts later on, though some of them you still could probably take full speed. I just was not good enough to be able to do it, or just didn't take the correct lines. Either way, had a little bit of struggles later on in this map, but yeah, full speed for the most part. Transitioning from dirt to regular road, really not the most difficult track. The end can trip you up as you have to get through a small little gap, as well as the part we just passed where you got that like 45-degree angle that you got to climb up and over. That also threw me off a few times, but really I feel like the most dangerous part is kind of the end, getting through a very small gap to the finish. But overall, not too bad of a track here. And coming in at the 5th spot this month on January 8th, we have Alien ISS by Tatsune. Do want to mention a few things about this track. It is extremely difficult, and second point is that it took like 10 minutes to load. I almost gave up on even thinking this track was going to be playable because it just refused to load. But I spent some time just letting it do whatever it had to do, and it finally came about. But it's an extremely difficult track, mainly because I feel like these black sections here, on some of them, they have ups and downs and turns to them, and you just cannot see them very well. I feel like this in a different environment or a little bit better lighting could be an extremely good track, because the pathing was very, very excellent. It was just so hard to see at what point these black pieces were turning. So that was my main gripe with this. This could have been easily my first place finisher this month, but it ends up at 5th due to those reasons. The track for January 9th is Sugar Rush by Averios96. This track wasn't all that great. I didn't really care for it too much. Just felt pretty awkward throughout. I did have a pretty big blunder in here and still managed to get gold. So if you're looking for an easy gold, this track will be it. But as you can see, that area we just passed, terrible driving right there. But yeah, still going to manage to get this one. There will be one section coming up where you're definitely going to want to take a right side exit. So I feel like the left one just leads you into an object to crash into. So yeah, if you're playing this and you want to get a good path right there, I definitely recommend taking the right side. Got lucky we didn't hit that block right there, and then I stupidly drove over all that grass, but managed to get the gold anyway. The track for January 10th was Going Deeper by Nova Terrorsh. A walled-in track, not my favorite type of track. If you saw last month's video and any previous month's video, I just hate the tracks that have these narrow pathways with the walls kind of closing you in, giving you like really no freedom of movement. Really not my type of track. If you like them, hey, that's for you, but really not my thing. So I'll let the rest of the track play out here. Enjoy. January 11th track is Mets by Neo Ryan. I felt like this was a pretty good tech track, although a bit on the basic side. There's just a few turns in here that really aren't too challenging, so I feel like anyone Could just about drive this track. But yeah, pretty basic. I wouldn't say maybe a top 10, maybe a top 15 finish. Well, probably a top 15 finish. Pretty easily top 15. But yeah, pretty basic track, really not a ton to it. Really got one jump left here and a left-hand turn, and we're already at the finish. The track for January 12th is Peril of Gobi by Mimic TM. And what do you know, we got another walled-in track here, although this time even worse than the last one, because this time we have to drive on some dirt. Don't really feel like I need to say it again, but you know, why not? Not my favorite type of track. Hate the walled-in tracks. Probably one of my least favorite types. But it is what it is. We're going to keep driving these. We're going to try our best to get gold on them. And we will get a gold on this one as well. One section coming up here soon after a couple of little wall ride sections, I guess you can call them. Luge sections. You got a jump here that you can skip this loop with. I found it so difficult though right after not to hit that wall. Pretty much hit it every single time I made it over. But luckily it was still managed to have the speed to complete this one. But yeah, we'll let the rest of this track play out here. The track for January 13th was DDN World 4.1 by DDKWG. This creator made one of my favorite tracks last month, and unfortunately not going to be the same this month, so I found a lot of the transition spots on this one to be very weird and awkward to take. The track does look pretty unique, but again, the transitions kind of just aren't that smooth in my opinion. Track is a pretty short one, so that's a little lucky there. I do like the shorter tracks more, but we're already coming up to the end here. Just an okay track for me. The track for January 14th was Freedom Valley by Zephanox. Found this one just to be alright. Again, I had one problem with the transition later on, but overall, it's, I guess you can call it a tech track. Yeah, watch out for that pole we just passed. Yeah, I couldn't call it a tech track. There's a few drifts in there, but it's kind of all over on the place on what it wants to be, so yeah, I'm not really sure about this one. We got this here, and then we got kind of like just a complete blind turn in here. It's a very long turn, never know when it ends. Oh, and now we're out. And this jump right here, I had no idea what to do, but luckily we just sent it, had a bounce on the wall. Still gonna manage to get gold here though. January 15th's track was B by Mr. Nagu. This one, again, kind of like last one, I just have no idea what it was supposed to be. This early jump here, it just didn't make any sense. You gotta just go flying off the ramp and then land on a super flat ground when you're not really able to level yourself. And then through here where you just can't see anything, I somehow bonked and managed to keep going and get a gold on this one still. But really, the first half of this was a mess. This jump here is kind of a mess because you can get that little zoop off that platform, and then it can send you absolutely flying straight into a wall. Then we just got some uphill dirt with some boosters here, which is probably the best part of the track. But the first half of this track was not great, and it just ruined the overall track itself. So yeah, we'll leave that at that, because the end is right here. The track for January 16th was Frosty Riverside by Deponier. Thought this was just an alright track, although it did have pretty good scenery in it. Thought the route was just an okay route. Got a nice little wall ride jump section there, which tracks don't really use too often, so bonus points for that. And we'll continue driving here. I have a big ice section coming up right after this boost. So, I don't know if you want to take the straight or ice slide on it. Probably sliding is better. But following that, we're going to have a little bit of a jump here onto this bridge, and then we're going to be driving straight up, whatever you want to call this section here. Turning around, and then after we go across yet another bridge, there's going to be a wall ride. And then following up, there's going to be a big jump, which felt a little bit off on where it wanted you to jump. Like, there's an arrow there, so I figured, oh, you want to jump straight through here, but then you got to overcorrect back to the right, because this awkward angle entrance there. Then just drive straight to the finish. The track for January 17th was Hideout by Avarios96. This one was close to an honorable mention from me. The route just felt a little strange on some of these turns, so I just didn't really feel like giving it one, to be quite honest with you. But overall, not a terrible track here. Very great scenery, very good looking track here. But overall, I felt like the beginning of it could use a little bit of an improvement, but here's the finish already. And coming in with our second best rating of this month on January 18th, we have My Love Is Winter by Das Chaff. Very nice track here. Overall, it flowed so well, and I really liked some of the custom textures, especially on the dirt ones with the snow-like texture on it. Thought it looked very nice. Even these road ones have nice edge textures on them. So yeah, very nice job there with the textures. And again, just overall, the track flowed so well. It definitely deserved my top 2 placement here. So yeah, be sure to check this one out if you're following or playing along. Just a very, very nice track here. The track for January 19th was Zara by Ratty Piken. It's a pretty good track here, maybe a top 10, top 15 track for sure. I was a bit worried on this one about these bobsled sections, 2 pretty decently long bobsleighs, and with the new ice update that came out at the beginning of October of 2022, they made it much slower, so I was very worried that this maybe wouldn't be possible. But obviously we will be getting it here. Well, maybe not obviously, but pretty close to 100% that we're getting these gold medals. But yeah, gonna manage to snipe it here. Got some dirt spots as well, and then gonna get a sausage section here. Make sure you're on the left side of this to be able to get a jump over to the next section and skip that slow-mo block as well. The track for January 20th was Botanic Park by Supernova FL. This was an okay track. There's some spots in it I really didn't care for, including one coming up pretty shortly here. This little dirt section, the last part of this, very hard to get a decent turn through that. Always struggled with it when I attempted it. But then a little later on here, we'll have a bit of an awkward section again, where there will be an engine off. Like, anytime I came through here, I would get so much speed that the engine off section just wasn't really possible to drive through when I had that much speed. So here I purposefully slowed down before I entered by just letting go of gas, and made it through it cleanly. And then after this little wall ride section, I guess you can call it, there are a couple drifts which didn't feel all that great to do, but managed to get through it fine, and here we are at the finish. January 21st track was Are You Tough Enough by Frozen Tire. Pretty much full speed, I want to say, through this whole thing, although there were some issues with it where I would just purposely slow down because it was rather difficult to make the turns otherwise. But here is the coming section where I did not realize you can jump over this wall to skip the loop and an engine off, I believe. So make sure you take that, otherwise the gold is just going to be next to impossible to get. I didn't realize it for so long until I watched the GPS that that was what you had to do. But again, here on the second lap, it's going to be just basically the same thing. Although I felt when I took these turns right here full speed that I would slide out and just hit the wall, so I had to slow down briefly for those. But the rest of this is going to be basically the same. Jump over the wall and get the boost. And yeah, let's take it to the end here. And coming in at our #1 track this month on January 22nd, we have Emerald Number. I believe this may be pronounced by Cairo. Also, don't know how to pronounce that one. But yeah, this was an excellent tech track here. Very nice, clean drifts every single spot on this one. Some transitional pieces as well, but really this was just a very, very well executed tech track. Super smooth lines, like I said, everywhere. Drifts are clean everywhere. Just an enjoy to play this one, so be sure to go check this one out. The track for January 23rd is Peaceful by Nitty68. This is certainly a track. The gold medal is basically free, and I feel like the author is kind of free as well. Did not get the author though, as you'll see later on here near the finish. We're gonna mess up pretty bad, but yeah, free gold medal right here. I guess it's just supposed to be free, as the name would suggest that the track is peaceful. But yeah, it's pretty bland, pretty boring. This section here was a bit strange with the ice. Then I just could not figure out where it really wanted me to go right there. But yeah, just not my favorite track. Just felt very strange, and I don't know, there really wasn't much to it. I guess that was maybe the point of it right there, as you miss that. And actually we'll have a second blunder coming up here. I didn't even remember that we had that first one. But there we go, messed up right there. Continue to go. And we're not going to make it to the finish because we'll be way too slow, but I'm going to drive anyway because I had no idea where the end of the track was. So yeah, gonna try to make this jump come nowhere near it. And we'll get it on our second try here. But yeah, the track overall, just strange. I don't really know what else to say about it. The track for January 24th is Descent by Bart Simpson 94. This track, not sure about how much I cared for this one. The start was alright, I guess, although very weird at points. Like, it seemed like they wanted you to full speed, but then there's drifts in here, there's weird transitions that didn't really work out, in my opinion. We're gonna get the gold anyway, but yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. It was just a weird track. That's all about I got for it. January 25th track was VRAM by Cairo, or Kilro again, I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. This was a very nice dirt track, mostly dirt track. There are a little bit other sections later on, but yeah, it was pretty good, minus 2 sections I want to say. There was one jump coming up very shortly, in which you gotta jump a wide gap here. There'll be an arrow point where you gotta go, it's right here. So many times I would over jump this. It was so easy to over jump. That's probably where 90% of my runs came to die. And then here, I mean, this section was alright. The risky finish was quite insane though. The track for January 26th was Dragon's Lair by Prof 10. This track was just okay in my opinion. The first few sections are fine, but really the problems come later on where you actually get to the quote-unquote Dragon's Lair. Yeah, this beginning section really is mostly full speed. We gotta jump down here onto some more grass and another jump onto some road, and then here's where we enter the Dragon's Lair. This turn through this little section here didn't feel fantastic to drive, felt very weird. Then afterwards you got a sharp turn to the right here, which also didn't feel great, and then again another not so great feeling turn here to the left. So really just an average track, some good parts, some not so great parts in my opinion, but really that's the rest of the track here. Just gonna have one more turn to the left and drive up some boosters to the finish. And coming in with our second honorable mention this month, on January 27th, we have Tiny Turns by TM Tom. Very short, compact track here with tight turns. Basically every single one is almost a 90-degree turn or 180, for example, like this one here. But very cool concept. I enjoyed playing this one. Not enough to get a top 5 placement, but does get an honorable mention for uniqueness. On January 28th, we have Sandy Dunes by Wisp Schlumpy. Another walled-in track here with dirt as the surface. Again, it's been a little bit since we've had a walled-in track, but not long enough, in my opinion. I, again, don't really care for these at all. But this one seemed a little more forgiving, a little bit easier than most of them. Not sure what the difference was, but I didn't really struggle with this one too bad. Later on here, coming up pretty shortly, I believe, yes, right here, entering this little tunnel area. I didn't care for this too much. These turns felt slow and weird. I probably didn't take them correctly. I just didn't really know what to do there, but we're gonna manage to get gold anyway. But yeah, again, walled-in tracks are not really my thing, so it is what it is. On January 29th, we have Through the Seasons by KC Flakesy. This was a tech track. It was an okay tech track. Certainly wasn't my favorite of the month, but it was fine for what it was. A few awkward drifts in here that didn't flow all that well, I'd say. But overall, again, decent track here. One of the most awkward sections was coming up right here after this jump. You got to get through this checkpoint. Either you can go through the full opening or you can go through the side area. I don't know what you really want to call it. But yeah. An okay tech track for what it was. Just wasn't one of my favorites. The track for January 30th was Exile by Rip Fish. I'd say the only thing negative about this track was right in the beginning there, when you got to go down the downhill. You just can't really see where the road is compared to the penalty grass, but that's really something pretty minor. The rest of the track is just perfectly fine. Full speed, basically grass the entire way. Really not much else to say about it, because that's kind of all that it is. So it's a perfectly fine track, really not anything negative, not anything super positive to say about it. It's just a good overall track that flows pretty well, in my opinion. So yeah, be sure to check this one out. Probably a top 10 track, not enough for a top 5 placement though. And for January 31st, the final track of the month, we have a 4th place finish on the track Catnip by Roxy. This was a tech track with a bunch of transitions in there. It was a pretty good track, honestly. I feel like there could be a few improvements, though. Maybe not great sign placement for some of these turns, and yeah, I think it led to a bit of confusion for me. But it wasn't enough to downgrade it enough to make it out of my top 5, because it just overall, when you get the correct lines, it does flow very well. So there it is, the 4th placement for Catnip. So there we have it, right back into having achieved gold on every track of the month after missing one last time. Overall, I felt like this month was fairly easy compared to last, and compared to most of the others I have gone through. Maybe my skills have just improved, or maybe they were truly easier. Again, my top rated track for the month was Emerald Number by Kilrow, so job well done by them. Make sure to go check the track out for yourself. The challenge continues though as I move on to the tracks of February of 2021. How will I fare on them, and what will be my top rated tracks? Only one way to find out, so be sure to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of this series. Also, check the description for links to my Twitch, Twitter, and Discord, and if you haven't, check out the previous parts of this series. But that's it for now. I'll see you guys next time.